Hey everybody, back with another review. This one is going to be from a 2019 movie called Extraordinary. Although for most everybody this is dropping in 2020. It's been available for a month or two, I believe, on video on demand through various rental services, Amazon, the usual suspects. And I expect pretty soon you'll probably see it drop on free for streaming on one of the major carriers, Hulu or Netflix or one of those. So keep your eyes out for Extraordinary. So what is Extraordinary? This lives in kind of that special category of comedic supernatural or comedic horror that doesn't often work, and I think it works pretty well here. I think of things like the Cornetto trilogy by Edgar Wright, or even Ghostbusters, although on a much smaller scale. It's got that same sort of charm and lighthearted balance between supernatural and comedy. So, what is it? First of all, it's directed by Mike O'Hara and Enda Loughman. I'm not sure how to pronounce it there. I would assume Irish because the movie is based out of Ireland. The one name actor in this is going to be Will Forte, and that probably is to help, bring, a broader audience to this smaller indie movie from Ireland. So it basically focuses on the main character of Rose, played by Maeve Higgins, and she was raised in a household where her father was a noted television kind of a paranormal guy. And in fact, it's really cool. Throughout this movie, you get clips of his show. And you can tell it's from either the late 70s or early 80s. It kind of has that look. And I think they show at one point he has a bunch of books and video cassettes, VHS cassettes of his shows that were on. And it opens with him talking about ghosts and how they're everywhere, and they're often really small. You'll see like a pen moving or just little things. He at one point he even goes in about how ghosts will definitely possess cheese, because cheese is really easy for them to possess, and it has a living culture in it, so it's very simple for them to get into cheese. So that kind of gives you a feel for the comedy. It's that dry British comedy, even though it's Ireland. Sort of that style, a combination of dry comedy meets silliness. But there's a lightheartedness to this, and there's a heart to this, which is really nice. And it's grounded, along with the silliness, in kind of everyday small town Irish life. So Rose was part of her dad's paranormal team when she was a kid, but now as an adult, she's kind of giving away that part of her life, because they kind of hint that something happened to him based on their team up as when she was a child, and that somehow that led to some tragedy because he has passed at this point. And you will get a flashback telling you about that, which is a lot of fun later on, and I won't spoil that. Anyway, she currently just works as a driving instructor, kind of the most mundane, tedious life. It shows her going home, and she'll just sit there in her kitchen and listen to all the answering machine messages of people wanting her to do paranormal work for them. And she just won't do it. She doesn't want to go back to that part of her life. Well, enter into her life Mr. Martin, played by Barry Ward, and he is also really good in this. And his character, basically, he is a widower, single father of one daughter, and his wife, who has passed, still haunts him. And it's kind of like he still has this antagonistic relationship with her, where if he's doing things she doesn't like, she'll throw something across the room, or he's not wearing the right shirt, she'll make sure the drawer comes out and hits him in the eye and gives him a black eye. So it's kind of making his life miserable. But he's also kind of a really meek, mild-mannered sort of guy, so he can't really give up his life with his, the ghost of his wife always, causing havoc in his house in a poltergeist fashion. So he pretends to take a driver's lesson from Rose, and of course there it goes. Their story goes on, and he eventually wants to get her involved in the paranormal help for himself. Now, Will Forte plays a kind of the antagonist of this story, and probably he's the weakest part of this movie. He's a little more over the top than everyone else. Everyone else is silly at points, but they're more grounded, whereas he's really a little more of an exaggeration throughout. The concept of him is he lives kind of in this big old mansion nearby the small town. He's kind of a one-hit wonder that came from America, had his one music hit in the 70s. I forget the name of it, but it's this really cheesy music video you'll see of him doing that. And he's trying to regain that fame by basically doing a pact with the devil. And that somehow involves into the lives of these other two characters that you met. And so he is kind of the driving force to be stopped. The real charm of this movie is all of these little moments, and like Ghostbusters in a sense, that once Martin and Rose team up, and she kind of goes to regain her paranormal life. She goes to all these different places to basically exorcise some sort of a supernatural problem from some local, and a lot of them are very mundane and small and weird and kind of interesting. And it makes it a lot of fun. And it's different than Ghostbusters. There's not a whole bunch of flashy effects. There's a little bit towards the end of the movie, but most of the time it's really small, subtle stuff. And that really creates more fun in the comedy, I think, than you get in most movies of this type. It doesn't try to go big. It doesn't try to do a whole bunch of CGI. A lot of the comedy is based just out of the situations and the characters. And I must say that both the Martin character and the Rose character are both really good. I love the comedic approach that Maeve Higgins brings to this, and as well as Barry Ward. But Maeve Higgins, she's really the star of this movie, and I love the fact that she's just such an ordinary character. She is not glamorous. She's not played for laughs, as far as you're not supposed to be making fun of her. She's just kind of this sort of a sad sack sort of character with a really low confidence, just trying to dip her toe back into, the reality of her paranormal existence, and also kind of dipping the toe into possibly romantic interest. But it's all done really charming way, and you're rooting for all these characters, which is really the hallmark of this kind of a movie, is that you want to root for these characters. This is one of those movies you can watch and it's very light. You're not gonna change the world with this movie, but you're gonna have some fun along the way. I would think just about anyone would have some fun along the way. And it's got little things in there that you won't forget, like there's a moment where they say, "Never wake a floating goat," and when you find out why you would never wake a floating goat, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty hilarious, and it also is used later in the movie. So I wouldn't say I would give this, like, everyone has to run out to see this, but if it sounds like it might be your cup of tea, especially if you kind of enjoy the Edgar Wright style of stuff, but a little less flashy, I think you could really have a good, fun rental with this movie. I mean, for me, it's in that 3.5, 4-star range. Solid. Could be great if honestly, they could have probably just left out the Will Forte character altogether and just let it be small town life with this paranormal stuff throughout, and just given them a character arc between Martin and Rose. And I would have been perfectly happy with that. Although I understand to sell it, you want to have kind of a bigger climactic, confrontation towards the end. And it isn't terrible. It isn't bad. I mean, you'll definitely can enjoy it and has some really funny moments in it. But I just think for the overall tone of the movie, it didn't necessarily need to be there. Once again, I would say that these two directors, this is the first, I think, full release that they've done, but it looks like they worked together on a few shorts. So I would say keep an eye out for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they get a little bit bigger budget and a little bit bigger project based on this, because this is definitely one of those movies that could kind of hang around and gain sort of a cult following, and really it has a pretty broad appeal to it. There's nothing too extreme about it. I think people could really enjoy this movie. So once again, that is Extraordinary. Keep your eyes out for it, and I think you could have a good watch with this one.